So the first question for the evening, guys, is my parents will always demotivate me and they want me to go for a job, start earning for them. It will take time for me to get a job because of unemployment and other things. Still, I'm doing a master's degree. So what should I do? They want money and nothing else.
Sorry. The issue is that this person is demotivated by what their parents want, right?
Yes. Yeah.
How to deal with parents is now, this is the opposite of parenting. This is
Yeah.
the consequence of not following gentle parenting of the parents,
Yeah.
that they don't listen to their children. But as a son, there is a particular, you have to respect your parents and obey them, especially when you're young. But once you're old enough, it's up to you to make the choice. So you have to choose what your response is going to be based on what you think is the best for you and for them together. I mean, parenting is meant to stop at a particular age, is meant only for children. Well, children in the sense that you are young. Once you're grown up and you become an adult, then you have to make the choices on your own. So parents are only meant to guide you and encourage you in what you choose. And if they are controlling, obviously you recognize the fact that they are controlling you. So you have to then choose how to handle that control. And, that's all I can say at this moment.
Yeah. Cool. Mrs. Vinta, do you want to add anything on to this, or should we move on to the next question?
I would say that we don't know your personal situation,
Okay.
So we have to, we have to be sensitive as children, as well as parents have to be sensitive as parents. So, I don't know what your home situation is and what your financial situation is and why is it that they are, wanting you to support them at this point.
Right.
So then you need to consider all that as well. At the same time, you should be able to make a decision. Is that decision based on just your selfish desires? Is it for the good of all? So we look at how the decisions are made. Is it good for all, for the benefit of all? So that would be a guiding way of making that decision.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for adding on. Children, please listen to that. Parents, please listen to that. Amazing. Yeah. So the second question, I'm putting it up on the chat box, and it says, my daughter always wants her desires to be fulfilled, and she throws tantrums in order to get her way. I am tired and exhausted trying to teach and help her to move out of this behavior, but I have been failing. What do I do?
Yeah. I do not know how old your daughter is, but children throw tantrums. Everybody, because human beings are born self-centered. We are all self-centered, and we need to be guided. So as a child, we need to be guided. So actually, the tantrum didn't start at age 5 or age 3. It all depends on how did you handle the child earlier. Okay, so if from the beginning you allow the child to control you, and she has understood that when she makes a noise, when she throws a tantrum, she gets what she wants, she'll do it again and again. Okay, so the tantrum they throw is to get their way. Have you been doing that from the beginning? Like, I can give you an example from my own life. When my eldest son was born, I remember there was milk on the fire and he started crying. He was just a newborn baby. And in my desire to serve my child, I I was willing to drop them, leave whatever I was doing to rush to him and to pay attention to him. Okay. But my husband told me that, if you do that, he will have you around, he will twist you around his fingers because we are dancing to their tunes. Have I been dancing to their tunes all this while? And then now I'm not able to handle tantrums. So we have to start using appropriate authority and know how much to give in, what is good for them, what's not good for them, and how to give in to them at the right time, right from infancy. It doesn't start at age 3 and 4. From infancy, we are helping a child to know that you are the authority and they are not the authority. When they're throwing a tantrum, they are wanting the authority that the parent is supposed to have. I don't know whether that answered.
Yeah.
Yeah, that gives a reason why you are finding it difficult. Because at this stage now, I don't know how old the child is, but you will have to be able to exercise the authority. It's not easy to do that at this time, but you will have to set boundaries, be clear, tell your child and make sure that, you're not going to give in to whatever she desires. And you have to be firm in your decision. And probably, if it's a lady, you need the husband or wife. Both the parents have to agree. Otherwise, your children are going to manipulate and they'll go to the other parent and try and get what they want from the other parent. So parenting, it has to be a joint thing between the husband and the wife together, deciding what is right and what is wrong, setting the boundaries and being firm about their decisions.
Yeah. Glad to hear from both of you. And it's really amazing to see both of you guys adding on. Guys, a kind request, please send your questions to Q&A and not me. It'll avoid less confusion. Yeah, moving on to the third question. Love is not an easy option. Looks like they're hitting you back because you mentioned about love. Yeah, love is not an easy option to opt for as a parent. I am a human and I fail and I mess it up bad often. What do I do to be a better parent?
Love is not easy. Absolutely agreed. Okay. But have you seen anything grow to its fullness without love? Whether it's an animal, whether it's a plant, and much more a human being, because we are created for a relationship of love. Now, when I say love, we are also learning on the way. It's not, you are not the perfect parent and you have perfect love. But we are learning on the way. And love is being more concerned about not being selfish, but being concerned about the other person's concerns, what is good for them. Now, when you say love, if your child wants chocolates all the time and you say yes to it, that's not love. You agree? While if the child wants chocolates every time and you put limits and you are able to help them, not give in to their demands because it may not be good for them, that is love. So love is not always giving into a child's demands. It is doing what is good for the person.
And that means keeping the big picture in mind always. That's why having that vision or goal, what do I want my child to become? And so what do I need to do to make that happen? Now, though it is difficult, but it's a most important task because it's going to be, whoever your child is your image bearer, is the one who's going to represent you in the future, is the future of whoever you are, your parenting. And so it's worthwhile, doing that hard work. And nothing comes easy in life. We know that, right? If you want to become a good doctor, it's about 10 to 15 years of hard work before you can become a good doctor. And so parenting is also hard work at times, but it's worthwhile in the long run. As some of you have mentioned, It's rewarding in the long run. So don't give up, have patience, and God will help you to do what is right.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ashok. Thank you, Mrs. Vinita, for adding on. Moving on to the next question, the fourth one. It says, it's a tricky one. It says, is it correct to understand that boys need more attention than girls? The most number of people in streets are men. The most number of people in jail are men. The most number of suicides are more in men. So should we address boys and girls differently?
Yeah, see, obviously we know boys and girls are different very much from the beginning. Their likes, their dislikes. Boys tend to be much more boisterous and do a lot of, running around, jumping. They're mischievous. They are very curious. They want to test limits also. And so definitely they need attention, and it's ideally you should have a dad who can do that. A lot of times that doesn't work. Mom is alone, single parenting, and she's doing multiple tasks. That obviously becomes a big challenge for a single parent. But I think the way we are designed is to function together as a unit, husband and wife. And, boys especially look up to their fathers. They need a good role model. And fathers are often not there at homes. And so that becomes a big problem for boys who are growing up. Because, little boys, they really adore their dads. I remember when my kids, every time I used to come home from work, they'll run to me and jump. And if you're a parent, you know that. And as they're growing up, they're always looking up. And if dad is not there to listen to them, and be caring for them, but that doesn't mean that girls can also be self-centered and they can also manipulate. So we have to handle both of them differently. And you learn that as they grow up, with the experience.
Yeah, sure. Now, looks like we've got a bunch of questions. You wanted to add something to this?
No,
Or can we? Yeah, we can move on. Okay, yeah. So the fifth question for the day is, why is it that parents are always blamed for their children's failure? Isn't my son equally responsible for messing his life on his own?
Can you repeat that question again?
Yeah, why is it that parents are blamed for their children's failure? Isn't my son equally responsible for messing his life on his own?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I can't say that you can't parents cannot be blamed entirely for a person's failure. They may have some role in the way the child has grown up and the values that they have adopted and the things that they have learned to do and not do. But like you say, everything has a shelf life. You buy any product, there's a shelf life, right? So it is only up to this period. Similarly, I can't live the rest of my life blaming my parents for my actions. There's a point at which I can choose and I can make decisions. So I cannot continue to say that my failure is because of my parents. I cannot put the blame on my parents for the way I am living today. I don't know whether I'm. Yeah. So there may be, it's possible that we have not nurtured them the way they should have been nurtured, and so they've taken a wrong path. But once I know I'm going in a particular way, then I can always course correct. There is an age when we can make decisions and choices. So it is not like I'm done and doomed because my parents didn't nurture me the right way, or whatever it is. You want to answer?
Yeah, I think that's what Minnie said is perfectly right. when I do get parents who bring sometimes their children and they want the counselor to fix their kids, but I tell them, usually it is because there has been some issue in the parenting, either not proper boundaries given, or disciplining is not done, or things like that, or they have not spent enough time at home. A lot of times, the children who are growing up, as I said, they need dad and mom who are able to listen to them, where they can communicate with them. And when they don't get that, or they find that, just the parents are not responding the way they want, then children tend to be rebellious. And so there is a reason why that aspect is also there. But it's not a question of blame, it's a question of understanding. It's both sides are definitely responsible in the whole process.
Yeah, thank you both of you for adding on to that. Yeah, we are moving on to the next question. It is, what is the role of the father and the role of the mother in parenting? Do we have some specifics here?
Well, naturally mothers tend to be more nurturing. But when children are small, they are also the ones who do the discipline. Sometimes what happens is, so children, they know mom is very strict about something. They'll go to dad, and then the dad is very nice. And then, he becomes a nice guy because he wants to play with the kids. But it's important for mom and dad together to recognize and what are the rules and communicate with each other. Otherwise, children tend to manipulate between us. And, when it comes to discipline, or whether it comes to feeding, or whether it comes to educational part, we both have a combined role. At times, one may, either because of experience or ability to do it, is better than the other. But it's not very hard and fast defined that this rule and that rule.
Okay, that's cool. So are you saying that they can take up roles based on the circumstances?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Because a lot of times there are single parents. Many kids have only the mom. There are very few who have only the dad. But in our society, mostly the dads don't do too much of parenting, which is a big gap actually. It's important for dads to be involved in the parenting and be along with the mom and support her, because she on her own will find it really challenging, and sometimes children become rebellious because they don't get that.
Okay, thank you for adding on to that. The next question that we have says, oh goodness, I feel sad. Okay, it says, I have 3 daughters and each of them is not similar to the other. It is exhausting to deal with the mood swings. Any advice on this?
Exhausting to deal
with the mood swings. Yeah, right.
Yeah, see, I think one thing that we as parents need to understand is we have to build relationship with our children. Each one, you said absolutely right. Every child is unique. Every child is different. And so you can't have one rule for all or one way for all, but we have to build a relationship, and that is key. And that starts again right from the beginning, from their infancy. But I also want to say, okay, if you have not been doing that, you can always start. And how do we start? Start by listening. Listen to them. They are humans, like he said, they're a person. They're not an object. They have feelings, they have thoughts, they have their opinions. Listen. When we listen, we have the authority to speak. If as a parent, I am not willing to listen, they will not also, I don't have the authority to speak them. I need to listen, then I can speak into their lives, understand their root issue. We tend to look only at the behavior. You have to see why that behavior. Why are they having this emotional struggle? Why are they doing that? What is the root issue? And you will find it as you listen to them. Listen with a heart of wanting to understand them and then speak into their lives. You have wisdom. You have experience. And as they struggle, it is our duty as a mother and the father to speak into their lives, not just blast them and just, try to give your, only your way or your opinion. You listen so you can address it properly.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Mrs. Venta, for adding on to that. Looks like I have a lot of note making to do after this session because I better put all these things into practice one day if I become a parent. Yeah, moving on to the next question. Will I be a bad parent? By the way, I relate to this question a lot. Will I be a bad parent if I have been away from my own parents all throughout my childhood and have never been parented by them, but by wardens and teachers?
I think that is not necessary. We can always change. You see, like I said in the beginning, we tend to take parenting naturally based on whatever we have been parented. But that is not necessarily the right model. So learning is something like we spend time in learning a profession. Nowadays, there are books where you can actually read and understand how children function, how parents should, treat them. And then, you'll have to wait till you get married and you talk to your spouse. You both decide together because not one person, but two of you doing it together. And you can definitely be a much better parent than your parents were. You can choose to do that and be different.
Yeah, I think, like he said earlier, is remember the why. Why are you parenting? Why have you been given these children? And once you've decided why do I want to have children with good character, good values, who make a difference in society, then I work on the why. It doesn't matter what I got from my parents. I may have had a good deal, I may have had a raw deal. But once I choose my goal for parenting, what do I want from it? I can change the way I do it.
So it involves willing to change, willing to humble ourselves at times, to learn something different from what we are used to doing.
And it involves intentionality. Parenting is not, like he said, what happens is, okay, I got married. Oh, I have children now. Now what? Okay, let's feed them and send them to school. That's what everybody does.
Yeah.
So we are just looking at it's like the mason who, I don't know, the story of the cathedral that is going to be like a constructor and worker who, like a king who wanted to make a palace, and he walks into the construction site and he asked the first guy, "What are you doing?" He said, I'm laying bricks." Okay, then he asked the next guy, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm making a wall." Asked the third guy, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm building a cathedral, or I'm building the palace." Now, all of them were doing the same task. Okay, but each of them saw their task differently. And obviously, the guy who knows that he is involved in building the king's palace is much more motivated to do the work. It's not about this boring task of just laying brick over brick. But so then when we parent also, it can become like, oh, this is such a burdensome task, just putting brick over brick. But when I know what am I actually building, I'm not just here to educate send them to school or give them good food, but the overall nurturing them into the person I want them to be. So when I have that in my mind, I will keep working. Yes, I will fail. I will make mistakes, but I learn and they learn with me.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you. Thank you for adding on to that. Yeah, moving on to the next question. Actually, looks like we have a bunch of questions and we have only 20 minutes left. So I'll try to read the questions a little more faster. Yeah, it's a simple question, not a simple question, it's a tight question. It says, how should a parent treat an adopted child?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm glad you asked that. You should treat an adopted child as your own child. I personally know many couples who have chosen to adopt, and you won't believe it. When they grow up, they sort of resemble their parents. You can you can very rarely know that they're not adopted, so they tend to start resembling the parents. And so you must give them as much love as your own parents, because they're also human beings. They're also people with a lot of potential. And sometimes you'll find your adopted child would be much smarter than your own child.
That would be a massive blow, though. But yeah, still true. Yes. Moving on to the next question. It says, how does the difference in opinion between the father and the mother affect the child growth? What is your advice to parents on this matter?
Yeah. Especially in the area of discipline, we often have this difference between mother and father. But you know, it is good. You may initially start off with finding out that okay, you're thinking differently. It is good to talk together, and your relationship is matters a lot in the child feeling secure. Insecurity is one of those things that causes rebellion and other later problems. For a child to feel secure, husband and wife, father and mother must be on the same page. So if you are not, it is good to work on that.
Absolutely. This is a very important area. And again, it's husband and wife coming together. The way to make sure that your child is really growing well is for husbands to love their wives well, and vice versa, wives to love their husbands well.
Yeah.
If you do that, your children will be really secure and their own personality. Otherwise, they tend to be all the time insecure, not sure, because dad says something, mom says something, they'll manipulate in between, and they'll turn out to be, people who are when they grow up, they're unsure about what to do, how to do. They're not confident. There's be lack of confidence.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Husbands love your wife properly. Wives love your husbands properly. That's amazing. Yeah. Going on to the next question: how to follow gentle parenting when your partner isn't a supporter of that? Right.
Well, I mean, you have to explain it to your partner. That's no doubt about that. See, because, one of the things, like I said, we tend to parent based on our own culture. And you have seen it in your past, the way that your dad or your mom has parented you. And you stick strongly to those values, which may not be always appropriate. And your partner has a different approach altogether because he's raised in a different family. So partners need to talk to each other and understand, okay, why do you do this? I feel this is not right. I feel this is not right. Now, if there are only two of us, we don't know. Now we end up with having conflicts saying that I'm right and she says she's right. So then you may need to consult a third person, either a good counselor or read some good parenting books. There are lots of good parenting books available in the market. Buy a book and read it together and say, what does that person say? And then come to some conclusion about areas where you have conflict on parenting, so that you can both try to see eye to eye. Coming eye to eye is very important.
Also, maybe your gentle parenting will be a demonstration to him of how that works. If did you hear me? I said your gentle parenting, the one partner who's the gentle parent, have to demonstrate how gentle parenting works. And when you actually you do it, your spouse is the harsh parent, but if you are gentle, and he or she will start seeing how that works. So a lot of it we learn by demonstration.
Yes, true. Mr. Ashok, you had mentioned about certain books. We already got a question where a person asked, could you please suggest some books where we could get some good tips to parent? So could you please suggest that? We can maybe put it up in the chat box. Yeah.
Well, there's a book that I use called Shepherding a Child's Heart. It is more looking at the heart of the child rather than just the behavior. Then there's a book called Age of Opportunity. This is dealing with teenage children. But these are both books which are based on scripture, the Bible actually.
Okay.
But there are secular books as well, which I haven't read. So, but you'll have to
Nikki
find
and
it.
Silla, they do Alpha course as well. So
Yeah, Alpha Course has also got a parenting book.
Yeah, Alpha Course, which is on YouTube, right? That one.
Yeah, yeah.
You have a bunch
They
of
have a
books. Yeah.
parenting one also.
they have a parenting book here.
Cool. The parents out there, they've put up 3 things on the chat box. Please note it down. Children, you also note it down because you'll be a parent. So, yeah. Moving on to the next question. I'll just pull it out. Yes. Yeah. And the question goes like this: how do we know if the boundary that we have set is reasonable? Sometimes when I set a boundary and my 3-year-old son cries his eyes out, I doubt if I'm being reasonable.
Well, you are the one who's wiser than the 3-year-old, right? The 3-year-old may keep crying and trying to manipulate you with his tears, right? So you should know clearly whether this is right or wrong. I think there's no other way.
Yeah, and we need to be reasonable. Like, what is unreasonable? You can judge for yourself. You won't, like people say, no, put the child in the corner. A 3-year-old can't sit in that corner for more than 1 hour. I mean, more than 10, 15 minutes. And that's
Not
more
even
than,
that much.
yeah, that's more, 10 minutes is more than enough. But if
2 minutes.
you put him there for half an hour and do atrocious things like that, that's not reasonable. You have to be reasonable. What is the goal of your boundary?
Okay, yeah.
You understand that also. Why
True.
why have I set this boundary?
Yeah.
Is it to irritate him and annoy him, or is it
Something good for him.
something to help him?
Okay. Yeah. Who is more wiser here? That was savage. Thank you very much. Yeah. Going on to the next question. It says nowadays children are looking at lots of YouTube videos and cartoons. So they make the same body language and they respond the similar way to what is seen in the fantasy world. As parents, how to educate the children in this case?
So, as parents, have you allowed YouTube to be the parent? You ask yourself, how many hours is my child watching YouTube? So you have what do you call garbage in, garbage out. How much goes in? That's what. Who is the influencer in your child's life? And if you don't want YouTube to be the influencer, you have to do something else.
Point blank. Okay, shut it down. Cool. Yeah. Moving on quickly. Lots of times, kids compare their parents with other parents or other parenting styles. How to handle that?
Yeah. I guess comparing is not good for anything. Comparing parents, comparing siblings. We need to set the standard. To know what the standard is, what we want, we have to create a culture for our home. So you have to say, this is the, maybe your parents are their parents are allowing them to do a particular thing. This is the culture, this is the values that we want in our family. And so we do things this way.
Yes, having clarity there is very important. If you're just doing things without understanding it, you can't explain it to your child. But if you know the reasons clearly, then you can explain it to your child. Your child will understand why you do certain things, why other parents do differently. Now, why they choose to do that same thing differently, that's their choice. But we choose to do things this way because we believe this to be true or whatever.
True. So communication plays a huge role there.
Yes, absolutely.
True.
All the time, communication is the key for any relationship, including whether it's husband and wife, whether it is parent and child. That communication involves, as Vinny said, listening is very important, which parents have the temptation not to listen, but just to give orders. And we should never do that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. The next question says, how to make the grandparents, okay, amazing. How to make the grandparents understand that I have a personal choice of parenting for my child and they cannot take control and pamper the child.
Yeah, that's a very important issue in our Indian context, especially where grandparents tend to think that they are the wiser ones. Now that is where we have to be wise in handling them, and maybe tell them that thank you, Tata, or whatever you call them, for your advice, and it was very good in your time. Yes, I know it helped us to grow well, but this is the 21st century or whatever. You have to have a reason for what you're doing differently, and try to help them to understand your perspective and why you're doing what you're doing. And then you have to be firm there. Otherwise, they will, of course, allowing them to, grandparents will naturally want to play with grandchildren and, pamper them a bit. That's perfectly all right. You should allow them to do the pampering as long as they also are taught what the boundaries should be that you have set for your kids. If they deliberately break those boundaries, then you have to, call them and tell them that this is not done. At least not in my house, you can't do it. Then if they're living separately, of course, they'll say, okay, I'm going to grandparents' house, boundaries are different, fine. In my house, these are the boundaries. And then you have to tell them that this is not done. So that's what I think.
If I am it values and imitation, children imitate parents. So parents, if you are flaunting brands, they'll also want that. Okay, but if it's another child who's watching another family, you have to talk about your values, because they have to, because today's culture of the likes culture and all the advertisements, it's very attractive, and children think that they are valued because of the clothes they wear, the looks they have, but they need to understand from the parent they are valued for who they are, the person they are, because they are their child and they are precious. So it's not because of their clothes, their looks. That is what the TV and the Facebook and the social media culture is dictating.
True. Yes. So parents, hard work. Go ahead. Yeah. So the next question says, when everyone is following the traditional parenting, we are actually throwing the guns at you. What helped you both to opt gentle parenting in togetherness, and at which phase?
And at which
phase?
Which phase? Yeah.
Okay, one thing I want to say is no one is a perfect parent. Okay, we all learn, because we all become parents for the first time. Okay, and then we learn on this journey. And I think for us, it's been our faith in Jesus Christ. The reason being that, so we have one goal to follow, right? So we both may have come from different cultures, had different ways of parenting, but we have that goal. What do I want for our kids? We want them to be children with good values and good character, and who can contribute to society. So when the goal is together, one, then you will parent to be together. So yeah, it's not like I'm not saying that we were perfect. We made lots of mistakes, but we learned. But one of the things is being vulnerable and saying, yeah, I messed it up and I'm sorry, and you can do it again.
But the other thing is also being open to challenging some assumptions that we have. We grow up with certain traditions and assumptions that this is the best way. And if I'm able to challenge those assumptions, is it really this is the best way? Is there another way? And nowadays with the internet, you have much more access to much more knowledge. and
True.
we can then talk about additional ways of doing things or different ways of doing things.
Sure. Yes. We have 4 more questions. Is it okay if we go with 4 more questions, or should we cut it down? We can quickly go ahead. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. So this one says, these days I have seen parents in Tamil Nadu talk only in English. Because of this, they don't know Tamil or whatever their native language is. Is this right?
That's not a question for us to answer, sorry.
Okay. Okay. Then, looks like then I have to move on to the next question. Cool. Yeah. I'll just put it up here. Yes. Is spanking required for a child for correction of behavior?
Depends on the age of the child. I
Mhm.
think
0 to 5.
below 5 years, spanking is okay. But again, how do I spank? Am I spanking in anger? Am I spanking to punish? Or am I spanking for correction? Now, correction is different from punishment. Okay. So, how I spank, even my spanking has to be, it must hurt, because if it doesn't hurt, it's not going to have any effect on change in the behavior. At the same time, it must be loving. So, I'm not catching and shaking the child up, or whacking them because I am angry. That's absolutely wrong. That's abuse. That's child abuse. But I spank the child because he needs to know that what he's done is not right, and I disapprove of his behavior. After that, after I've explained that, I will also hug him and tell him that I still love him. I didn't like what he did, but I love him as a person. So, yeah. And if we start that discipline and all from the little age, when they become teenagers, you won't have as much problem.
Children have to learn obedience by the age of 5. So spanking, we keep it for the younger age group. And if they learn to be obedient by the age of 5 or 6, then later on, it's much easier to handle them. As they keep growing up, you can't use spanking. You have to use more word talking and helping them to understand and correcting them.
Yeah, cool. So, yes, thank you very much for adding to that. Personal lesson for me. Yeah. This question says, how to handle when the child does not understand the consequences and does the same mistakes over and over again.
Whoever asked that question, did you explain? Did you explain when he made that mistake in the first place? Do you explain it? Do you talk to the child? We have to explain. We tend to think that, oh, this child is too little, he can't understand. Even a little kid, even a toddler actually understands, even if he cannot speak. Okay, I don't know whether you would have noticed, you've told a little child not to put his finger into that electric socket. It's a common thing that crawling babies will do. They go put their finger into the electric socket and they get a shock. And now, as a parent, I don't want the child to get a shock, so I have to he's learning. If he learns and he knows it, then he will start away. He also needs to understand why. We don't just say, because I said so. That's not an answer. You always explain.
Yes, thank you for adding that. I think we'll go to the last two questions for the day because we already hit 7:30, but we've got these last two questions and we can quickly deal with them. And I'm putting both of them, and it says, in a family, mom and dad always have different opinions how to handle that. I think we've addressed that. Yeah, I think we've addressed that. Yeah. So yeah, we can go on to the last question. How should parents understand their children's feelings?
Children's?
Feelings.
Yeah. One thing you will notice that a lot of people don't even know their own feelings. Okay. It is important to help a child to recognize their feelings. She's gone, I think.
No, so
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you hear me, Mr. Ashok?
Yeah. Do you
Yeah,
hear
I'm
what I
sorry.
was saying?
No,
I'm
no,
saying a lot
I'm
of
sorry.
people don't acknowledge, they don't know their feelings because they've grown up not acknowledging their feelings. So it is good to help children to identify their feelings. One thing is to have a chart with different faces, smiling, happy, sad, surprised, and when something happens to the child, instead of just getting angry and beating, talk to the child. Okay, what happened? Okay, how are you feeling? And if he can identify, am I feeling sad? I am feeling happy. So help the child to express his feeling. And then you can ask leading questions, why are you feeling what you're feeling? And then deal with that.
True.
Recognizing feeling is something we have to teach children.
Yeah. It's sad that in many places parents also do not understand the fact that they have to sit and understand the feelings, because I would say they haven't even understood their own feelings in certain points of time.
Yes. See,
Yeah.
because they grew up without their feelings being recognized.
Exactly.
And so we tend to do the same thing with our children. So that's why you can't just blame a parent, because we don't know how far back these things have happened. But we can always make course correction. You don't just go by that. Okay, my parents did this, so I will also do this. No, start. And like he said, there are books to read. There's lots of information available. Be intentional.
True. Yeah. It says, how do you teach a young child that when you take a stand for your values, be it Christian or anything, you will be ridiculed and at times be left alone? How do you teach that?
you don't have to teach it, they'll learn it.
Okay. Learn it the tough way.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
but of course, you can always share from scripture about what scripture says about these things. It's not about teaching, rather, it's for helping them to understand why. That is a question that they ask. Why are people making fun of me for this? And so, I mean, you can't sort of explain it like that. You have to use scripture and you have to answer the why for them, and that will help them to understand why.
True. Because that is a painful process for them to even accept it, that, wow, I am left alone, or I'm being ridiculed terribly because of this. It's very painful them to understand or agree to the fact that because you have taken this, even I have to take it.
Yeah, but then there are many reasons why you're, ridiculed. It can be even due to your appearance, it can be due to color, it can be for so many reasons. So this is one of those reasons. And we have to, counsel and listen and help them to understand.
Yeah, they have to see value. When they see value in what they stand for, they're okay with the ridicule. If they have not understood the value, then they may not like it and they may not want to follow what you are expecting.
Yeah, there'll always be backlash from them because they don't understand.
Yeah.